I love the names on this team. They have Sixto Sanchez, and they have my favorite name probably in baseball right now, Jazz Chisholm.
Showing emotion in baseball is terrible and should never be in the game.
It's weird how the dynamic works between sports.
But to win a championship, not only do you need great players on the court, but you need good chemistry, which takes time to develop.
Justin Fields is a all-time talent.
Corey Perry will give some veteran presence to the Canadians.
I feel like Luka will take that next step, and if he can get a three ball consistently around 35%, I feel like they could become a contender.
We can make jokes about you not being in the Super Bowl for 20-something years, but...
What's up, everyone? This is Justin Goldman from the Goalie Guild and Lift the Mask, and you're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Austin and Kevin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NFL Opinions of the Week. I'm Kevin, and I'm joined by the man that has some daylight for his team, Austin.
Yeah, I believe in the future, but this was a weird last week. We saw week 6, we saw a lot of teams that should have probably won lose, and then heading to week 7, we have 6 teams on a bye, so less teams are playing.
Yeah, and I want to talk about the Eagles and Niners because I know the Niners had injuries, but characteristically, two quarterbacks, Hurts and Purdy, who I don't think really struggled with interceptions this past week.
Yeah, that's definitely true, and they proved pretty costly, especially when you consider the close margins they lost by, or when those picks came, especially for in the Jalen Hurts situation. They were up by 2 points trying to run out the clock, and on the third down where they're throwing, he threw practically a pick 6. It wasn't technically because they had to run the ball the next play to score, but effectively it was that.
Yeah, so I really viewed after the demolition of the Cowboys, it kind of solidified. I'm like, all right, Eagles and Niners are the best team. They're in their own different tier. And then they fall to some AFC teams. So do you have – what are your thoughts on the Eagles and Niners right now?
I still think they're the easy one, too, for me. I don't necessarily fully believe in the Lions yet. I need to see them get healthy. I need to know what that running back room is going to really look like because David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs have really dealt with injuries this year. The offense is good, but I think it could be better, and we'll see how Jameson Williams he obviously scored a touchdown on Sunday, but we'll see how he meshes in over the season. They look good, but I still think they're a step below what the Eagles and 49ers provide, especially when it comes to experience, what I do think is pretty important when it comes to the NFL.
Yeah, I agree. I agree on the experience. I agree it's both the Niners and Eagles. I'm just wondering, I'm like, maybe that tier isn't that far off as I thought it would be before this week. Because I'm surprised. Like, someone was like, yeah, the Lions are tied for the same record. I'm like, wow. So maybe I would have said there's no way the Lions can get into this tier. But the way the Eagles and Niners didn't really close out, I'm curious, like, maybe the Lions could enter this tier for me, and it's just what a run from this team. So I'm curious, what would it take for the Lions to enter that tier of the Eagles Niners?
I just need to see health and consistency. They need to beat the Ravens. The Ravens are 4-2 and are favored in this game, but they've not played like a 4-2 team this season, especially with some of their losses being as blatant as they have been. I'd say they have after the Ravens game a pretty easy schedule. Going against the Raiders, I don't think are all that great. Chargers are fine, but they still obviously Justin Herbert doesn't look 100%, and especially how he played on Monday night. With the broken finger definitely affected him. And then they play the Bears, Packers, Saints, Bears, Broncos, Vikings. Week 17, they play the Cowboys. I think that's really where their last really hard game. I think the Packers will be not easy, but not hard. Same thing with the Saints. Maybe the Vikings have gotten it together by then and Justin Jefferson's back, but they have a pretty easy schedule. I need to see them beat the teams that they're supposed to beat because while the Eagles and Niners both lost, they were 5-0 before that, and they can afford to lose one bad game. The Detroit, on the other hand, I need to see them beat the teams they're supposed to. if we're entering week 15, 16, and the Lions are still right there record wise, I still don't know if they're in that tier because of their schedule. It's going to take a lot, I think. I think week 17 versus the Cowboys is really where I'm going to make that decision. Because the Cowboys are on, I think the Cowboys are still on that brink if they can get some of their stuff together. I think they're in the same tier that the Lions are in, just at the bottom of that tier where the Lions are at the top. And I think that matchup will really kind of decide, hey, are the Lions above this tier or are they just at the top of it?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. I do believe the Cowboys and Lions are on the same tier. I'm curious on the Cowboys offense. Dak looked good. There were some moments where he found Pollard. I was like, okay, that looked good. And then that kind of brings me into my second point is the Bengals to me have been struggling. And same thing with the Chiefs. To me, they're defensive teams now because their defenses have really held up, especially in the Bengals win last week.
I don't want to say they're defensive teams, but I get your point. And the Seahawks are no pushover. They beat the Lions. They are the Lions' one loss this year. So they're a good team, and I think the Seahawks will easily go to 4-2 after their game against the Cardinals this week. But it's just surviving. And to be a true Super Bowl contender, you can't have a defense that can just be walked through. So I do think that when a team needs a defensive performance, the Chiefs and Bengals are getting pretty timely performances from those.
Yeah, and it's giving them a lot more time than I think last year with their defenses, where they struggled. Their offense has time to figure things out because I think we can both agree the offenses are struggling.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
And then that kind of leads me into my second point. Who's the second best quarterback in the league?
So you're saying Mahomes at 1, who's 2?
Is Mahomes at 1 not give a clear, or is that debatable?
I think we'll have to see how this year progresses. Jared Goff is playing outstanding. Kirk Cousins has played better than his record shows. It's really hard then. The tiers are definitely merging together. Tua is at the top, I think, but also you have to consider the fact that he's thrown a lot of interceptions. Well, a guy like Kirk has 14 touchdowns, which leads the league. He has the most touchdowns in the league with only 4 picks. While Tua, I believe, has 11 touchdowns. I'll fact check that right quick. Oh, no, he also has 14, but he has one more interception thrown, but he has more yards. So those are guys you have to consider. And how much does record actually matter? Because I would argue, especially if you look statistically, Kirk doesn't really deserve a 2-4 record, but Tua has a 5-1, and so does Mahomes. And Patrick Mahomes, if you just look at stats, has been, he's the one with 11 touchdowns and 5 picks, and at this rate, his passer rating is lower than it's ever been in his entire career. This would be his career low if it ended the season like this. So there's a lot of factors that go into that. Josh Allen's obviously not playing like he should. Same thing with Joe Burrow. I don't really know. I think we need to get through this muddy point in the season, get to the latter half of it, and then it'll start to clear itself up because the way injuries and everything has affected this season for so many teams, I think it's really unclear who the best QB is or where they play.
Yeah, and I don't really have an answer, but I was like, man, this really thinking about my rankings, and I don't really know how I can figure it out. So yeah, I was curious if you had an idea, but yeah, it's a weird season to me. But AFC wise, I'm trying to think. How about the Colts? The Anthony Richardson news. That's just terrible with his season-ending shoulder injury. Because
yeah. What were you about to say?
What do you want to say?
I was just going to say that it's sad, yeah, but it's extremely expected by how he was playing. The way he was playing was putting himself into the point where he was going to get hurt. Just like Trevor Lawrence said after the first game, you need to take care of your body because the NFL's not like college.
Yeah, that's a good point. And to me, that is a good point with his rushing and what he was doing. But to me, this really hampers the Colts' vision because the Richardson we viewed on potential, and if he can figure it out, that will be great. But now, what does this do to his potential? We saw. Do you think Trey Lance and Richardson are a good comp? Or the idea of those two guys, are they a good comp?
No, because Trey Lance was not supposed to be a rushing QB like Richardson is. He was supposed to be more of a scrambler. Richardson is a scrambler. I would say more. Trey Lance is more of an improviser. Like he'll get out of the pocket, like Russell Wilson. But Russ is not a running quarterback. He can get rushing yards, but he's more of a get out of the pocket and make a throw, unlike Lamar, that is get out of the pocket and run.
Okay. Because I bring up that comp because to me, Trey Lance was harmed by his injury, and I just don't know. Well, and you could say Richardson's worse because it's his shoulder that's injured, and how is that going to affect him if he tries to rush back? Which he won't, but that's probably more concerning because Cam Newton or is Cam Newton a better comp? I think that's what a lot of people.
No, or for Anthony Richardson?
Yeah, Anthony Richardson. Yeah. So I'm moving because Cam Newton had a shoulder injury.
Yes, but Cam hurt his shoulder a lot later in his career, and that's what really derailed his career. After the shoulder injury, he was never the same. But yeah, I'd say that's a better comp. I'd say Cam was a better prospect and was a better player earlier in his career. He's one of the best rookie QBs that we've seen since the year 2010 when he was a rookie. So, but we never really get to see Richardson how he would play over an extended period of time. So it's a good comp, but we have to see how he progresses.
Yeah, I agree. And so the thing is that was just something that came up to me, and man, what do the Colts do now? You can try to build up everything else, but to me, quarterback was a major issue. But you're 3-3. It's not bad. Texans are also 3-3, and I'm just curious on what the Titan or I think the Texans can make a run for it. I'm really interested in C.J. Stroud.
Make a run for a playoff spot, or make a run for the division, or make a run for.
I think I would say playoff spot, but I think they can make a run for the division.
Even over the Jaguars?
I would be intrigued. I think the Jaguars have that experience. I would say the Jags on a lower scale are a similar tier of like what we were talking about with the Eagles and Niners versus the Lions.
Mm-hmm. Okay. True, but at the same time, how much more experience? Like the difference, I think, is between those two comparisons. I think is vast because the Jaguars don't have that much. Like they do, but they don't.
Okay.
They were new onto the party last year.
Yeah. Do you think they're in the same tier then, or?
I don't know if they're in the same tier. It's really hard because the Texans did beat the Jaguars if I'm correct, in Jacksonville.
This year?
Say again?
This year, right?
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, I can't.
Yeah, it was at Jacksonville, week 3. They beat them 37-17.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. All right. Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I couldn't remember.
So I think they're in the same tier right now, especially because Trevor Lawrence may miss this week or the game when this is getting posted on Thursday night. He may not play, and if they don't against the Saints, I think the Saints win that game, and so it's tough. It's tough. I'm really interested to see how C.J. Stroud adapts over the season as teams start to learn how he plays, what his tendencies are, who his favorite receiver is, what he likes to do on third down, second down, first down. And if he can adjust, I do like the Texans as a team.
All right. Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, and this is something I didn't notice. The Jaguars didn't have a bye last week, did they?
No, they beat. Who did they beat?
They beat the Colts. Weren't they in London?
Nope. They were in London the 2 weeks before that.
Okay. I don't know why I thought of it. So, but they didn't get a bye after London.
They decided not to. They didn't want it.
Okay, well, it didn't seem to affect them. So I was like, wait, aren't they coming off back-to-back weeks in London? I couldn't remember. But yeah, I'm trying to think what else, because we really haven't, we've been doing other stuff, which I liked. It's just, man, there are so many things. Oh, okay. Oh, the Rodgers thing. Do you think Rodgers can actually pull it off? That's insane.
If the Jets are in a playoff spot, I think he could play in the conference championship, maybe. But I don't. The problem is I don't know how they get there. I don't think he will play this season, including playoffs. I don't think he will.
I know. Like,
It's too much of a risk because another injury I think would be derailing for career wise. Because at that point it just becomes debilitating.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird because for the people, there's a video of him throwing without boots and crutches, which is just insane. I didn't believe it. I'm like, whatever. But maybe he can do it. I doubt it though. And but Zach Wilson, I think, has gotten better. It's just okay. Yeah, we talked about this with the Jets video. How do you feel about the Jets right now?
I feel good. They're 3-3. They had a very impressive win against the Eagles. They almost should have won the Chiefs game. They're playing well. Their defense is saving them, and their offense isn't as bad as some people may have thought.
Yeah, so I'm curious now. Maybe they do ride Zach Wilson out because I think 3-3 is a pretty good spot given their circumstances.
100%. I don't disagree with that, especially if the other injuries we've seen on their team. So, like Sauce Gardner was out against the Eagles, and they still won that game. And now they're going into a bye, I believe. Let me see. Yeah, they have a bye this week, so they've gotten a lot of good results the past couple of weeks, and now they're 3-3, and like you said, in a good spot.
Yeah, and then so that's surprising, but really good job from them, and credit to Zach Wilson. I don't know really changed, but it really seemed like that Chiefs game he started putting things together, and yeah, that's all they need is just be you. They have an incredible defense, and they just need to do all right on offense. Just figure it out. Just put some wins together, and then. Do you know what's crazy is the Raiders are second in the AFC West.
Yeah, that is pretty insane. It's because of the Chargers' loss against the Cowboys, and the Raiders are 3-3 while the Chargers are 2-3. So, yeah.
Yeah, I can't believe that. I really thought the Chargers, I'm curious what will happen to them because I really thought they would come out of the gates firing and their defense, their offense.
Well, Eckler was out for all weeks except for week 1, and now this week they're just struggling with injuries. I am really. They have to adjust how they're playing with their injuries, and obviously, like I said, Justin Herbert did not like 100% in that game against the Cowboys.
Yeah, he missed some throws. I'm like, oh, what's up with him? And then I forgot about the injury. So yeah, and then. How do you feel about Titans and their quarterback situation? Do you think we see Will Levis?
The problem is that they have the worst O-line by far in the league, and so Ryan Tannehill has no time in the pocket, and that's why he got hurt. They need a better O-line, and do you want to throw out a young player in an O-line that's he's just going to get hit every play? So, I don't know.
That's a fair point. Yeah, that's really all I got. Bengals, this is a surprising thing. I don't really view Zach Taylor as the problem with the Bengals right now. It kind of just seems. I don't know what's up with Burrow.
Again, I don't think he's 100%. I think he's been rushed back. The O-line still has a ton of issues, and so they have a lot to work through, but I don't think the head coach is the problem.
Yeah. And then did you see the Chiefs trade with about. Yeah. How do you feel about Mecole Hardman returning?
He's okay. I don't think he necessarily adds anything to adventures.
Yeah, I don't really think so. Yeah, that's more trade ideas, but I think that's all I really got. Is there anything else? Oh, I do remember one thing as we kind of go roundabout. The Bears injury with Justin Fields. Have we talked about this already, or am I thinking of someone else I've talked about with Justin Fields? And if the Bears have the number 1 overall pick, I would.
Yeah,
go
we talked about this a little bit, but
Okay.
I think it does still depend on how Justin Fields. I think we talked about this last week or the week before that.
Okay, cool.
I think it does really depend on how he plays going forward. I know the injury's on his throwing hand, so he probably won't play this week. And that's obviously not something you necessarily want with a guy that you're going to have to obviously see if they're or if he's the guy, because you want obviously the guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair. And yeah, that's all I really got. And any final thoughts before we close it out?
Nope.
All right. And thank you all for listening. Let us know what you think, and we'll be back with another NFL episode later this weekend. Thank you for listening to Outsiders Opinions.